if you can all just say yes to that recording. And thank you so much for being here. Welcome. My name is Nancy Marco, and I am the founder of the Connecting You with Yourself community. It's free, it's online, it's about you, and I'm always open to suggestions and people volunteering to be content on it. To demonstrate your understanding of the diversity among us, which is what the Enneagram is all about. And especially as we're highlighting point 9, it's all about inclusivity. So if you would add your desired pronouns, and if you know your point that you are navigating with, add that to your screen too. Most devices, it's right up on that top right-hand corner, 3 little dots. It gives you the option to rename. So again, thank you for being part of the community and this chat. And normally we have time for everybody to introduce themselves, but we're not for the panels. So lots more people coming in here. So you will get to ask the panelists questions at the end. And today we will learn from Anna and John. Here comes Sophia again. Annette and Sophia. So welcome to those who just slipped in. Thanks for being here. So we are right in the middle of the body center. We started at the head center, which several people have said, wow, that's a little different, but I'm looking at the awakened essential qualities of each point. And I wanted to start our panels with the point 5 consciousness, the point 6 awakeness, and the point 7 joy. And then we move to the body types with the essence of vulnerability and strength, how those can be held together, truth at point 8. And now we move to point 9 with this idea of standing at the top of the symbol with a broad view. So the essence here is perspective. It is inclusivity. It is love. Holy love is the holy idea. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then next week, we're going to go to point 1. So unless anybody has any questions, everybody's good. Thanks.
I have a question, Nance.
Go ahead, Susan.
So these type summaries that you're showing, can we get access to those?
Sure, I can send you all of them if you like.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
All right, let me make a note. Send Susan PowerPoints. Pretty much everything I do, in fact, I can't think of anything I do. I'm always happy to share. I don't feel like the Enneagram belongs to any of us. I feel like the Enneagram is in each one of us, and our journey is that we're remembering it. So we're going to start out as we do every event that I host with a short centering. I got another question, but go ahead and find your feet on the floor. Yen would love it too. Okay, send it to both of you. And just feel your feet on the floor, wiggle around with your seat in the chair, and let the crown of your head reach nice and tall. Relax your shoulders and align your ears, shoulders, and hips by bringing your chin slightly back. That will require you to engage your core just a tad. And it invites you to relax into your seat. You might close your eyes, you might hazy your eyes. And if you're a wiggle worm, you might also just not close your eyes and just pick up a pen and doodle Um, we are all different and we're all at different places on our journey. And I respect that. But whatever your choice is for your meditative state, I invite you to start to notice, go inward, and start to notice that breath. And for this meditation, I'm going to invite you back, if you remember what we did at point 6. We focused on the triangle inside the circle that the hexad overlays. So bringing the symbol into our mind and really highlighting that triangle. And then starting at point 9, we're going to focus on coming into our body center. So just imagining the top of that triangle with this invitation into perspective that comes from a present body. So free of tension, free of resistance. Breathe in and awaken and exhale out and feel yourself becoming more rooted, more present, more awake to your parts, your pieces, and your instinctual intelligence. And as you inhale, become more aware of any areas you're holding tension, resistance, distraction. And with your exhale, just release that. Just let it come out. Feel your feet on the floor, your seat in the chair. Relax your fingers. Relax behind your eyes, between the brow. And then sitting in the seat of the observer head center. So coming from 9 to 6, activating that awakened state. You might bring your hands into a prayer mudra, pressing the heels, the mounds, the fingertips together. This helps to integrate and quiet that active mind. It brings together the right and the left hemisphere, the logic and the creativity, so that you can find that seat at the center of your head, that place where you're noticing what you're doing, noticing what you're thinking, noticing what you're feeling. Drawing in that energy at point 6 of awakeness, presence in the mind. And then with a sense of presence in the body, a relaxed state, presence in the mind, stepping out of the thoughts and being aware of them, in charge of them. We're going to move over to that point 3. And you might layer your hands across your heart to really come home to the center of the heart here. This precious place, this place of authenticity and right action, honesty and realness, an egoless heart. And maybe inviting that sense of love from the inside out. Let your attention go back up to 9 and hold the whole triangle in your mind's eye. See it inside the circle. with the hexad overlaid. And if you're one of those doodlers, you might draw the symbol as a meditative practice. And then with awakeness, aliveness, and awareness, come back to our space. So as we have done each week, I just give a little overview on the center that we are, that the point, the type that we're talking about is its home center. Keep in mind that we all have this center. So this is in you, and this is about you, regardless of your type. So the points 8, 9, and 1 in all of us are part of the body center. It's the home of the instinctual intelligence, and the intelligence comes through physical sensations. So we can't listen to the Nike commercial and just do it here. We're invited to tune in, tap in, see what our body is telling us. This intelligence gets blocked by a lack of connection to ourself, with others, and to the world. When we forget the oneness, which the law of one is part of this body center, reminding us of union, communion, and how we're all connected. The invitation for the law of one is to remember the power of the pause, which is why we pause and center at every event. And I hope that you're doing that throughout your day, every day, especially when you're triggered, tired. The body center relates to the physical chakras, power, relationship, life itself. So thinking about the first, second, and third chakra. The second chakra relates to point 9. It's a whole nother rabbit hole I could go down, but I'm going to stick to my notes. And it supports us, this physical chakras support us with a sense of groundedness, presence, physical presence, the right here, right now. The body center's focus is on doing, they're action based. And it presents as a pattern of attempting to gain control, maintain autonomy, be self-governing, and take right and be right to do goodness. The question at the body center is, how can I stand out, fit in, and make things better? So specifically at point 9, I have this next slide. People who are navigating from this point are called mediators, wise ones, harmonists, peacemakers. And so we keep in mind that no type is an island, and every type has natural influence of other types or other points. And point 9 is influenced by its wings of 8 and 1, and of its pathway points that we just played with of 3 and 6. The essential qualities for point 9 and the point 9 in all of us is perspective, an ability to include all the ideas, wholeness that comes forth through the honoring of diversity, seeing through the eyes of God or love, seeing the big picture. This is part of their talent, but if you can imagine for 1 second, if you could see all sides, how it could also cause a lot of angst for these type 9s. I had a type 9 say, everybody comes to me with their side of the problem.
Mm.
And I understand all sides, but they all want me to take their side. And I can't
mm,
do that. So maybe our nines will talk a little bit about that. The gifts and the talents at point nine are tolerance, strength, acceptance, gentleness, kindness, reassurance, and this sense of unity. They have this gift, this ability when they stand in their presence of bringing us together. The desire that they have within themselves is this harmony, peace, to include all and all sides and to avoid what they sense as pressure or conflict. Asserting themselves feels unsafe. And yet, these are leader types.
mm,
So, this polarity that they have within them in regards to their desire, sort of a push pull that we talk about a lot at point four, is at point nine, too. The child sensitivity is feeling unseen and unimportant, fueling a belief that I must merge to survive. Their lost message is you are important. Your opinion matters. You matter. My youngest daughter identifies at type 9, and I'm so glad I learned the Enneagram when she was in her preteen years because I remember to say this a lot to her and to wait because sometimes the 9 needs your patience to wait and to say, you are important and your opinion matters. So we're going to wait for it. And don't just say, I don't care.
mm,
The holy idea at point 9 for all of us, the holy ideas are for all of us, is holy love. And it is a sense of sustainable softness and sweetness, an inner loving light that shines outward. That remembering at point 3, that love is who we are. And it's something we forget because we've been traumatized or trained out of it. It's the experience of inner ease and a settling of the mind. It's universal love. So the fixation is how we forget this. And it's called indolence. It's the mental habit of passive control. So the 9 is not like the 8, where you're going to feel that aggression outward. It's a passive control. It looks like ruminating and stewing with mixed non-action, preoccupied with an illusion of peace, harmony, and comfort. And it includes moodiness, stubborn neglectfulness.
mm,
The basic fear is fragmentation, separation, a loss of their autonomy, discomfort, and a loss of control. The
mm,
virtue, which is the way that the heart is awakened, is through participation and right action, bravely staying engaged, using that awakeness, that commitment at point 6 to stay engaged from a place of knowing that they are vital, that their opinion matters, and that they can bring all the perspectives together. The way they forget that is through the passion. It's procrastination, cynicism, superficiality, a gross denial, a tendency to run away mentally and emotionally, check out. I had a 9 on a panel once. She so beautifully said, she's a leader. And she said, the hardest part of me being in charge of this large group is everybody's talking and I'm nodding my head, but I'm overwhelmed and I'm checked out and I'm not even there. I'm not
mm,
even listening. And she said, I have to record my meeting so I can go back and listen. So it's an attempt to ignore life's challenges. And it plays out with a temptation of an unawakened state, committed to retreating patterns, self soothing with repression, disassociation, disengagement, avoidance, and denial.
mm, mhm,
The hidden complaint is I am content. Others pressure me to change.
mhm, mhm.
I hear lots of nodding. So the questions that I have on the screen, I'm going to take them down so I can see everybody. But if you want to take a quick snapshot of them or with your phone or with your computer to follow along, I will be asking the panelists each one of these questions. They have gotten them in advance. So let me take the slide share down. And welcome those who slipped in who I haven't greeted yet. Thank you so much for being here. And let me put my panelists up. Sophia, Anna, John. Where are you? Annette, there you are. So I'm just rearranging them so I can remember where you are. So Sophia, we're going to start with you. Sophia is part of the Connecting You with Yourself community. She has done presentations for us. And what else do you want to share? Introduce yourself, Sophia, and share briefly about your journey and experience with the Enneagram. What brought you to it and what keeps you practicing? Oh, you're muted. You're muted. We want to hear you.
I feel like that's appropriate to start out the 9 panel. So what brought me to it, I was working out all of my patterns in the way that you do, and it was getting me more and more and more stuck. And I had a moment of crisis where I just burnt out. I was just at work and my muscles wouldn't move, which was pretty terrifying. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, you gotta do something. Like your boss is right here. You've got to at least look like you're working. And on that day when my muscles couldn't move, I thought, well, what if I just do something not work related? So I brought up Google and I typed in, who am I and what do I want? Because I figured that was the answer to why everything was crashing down. I had no idea. And I thought, well, if I can figure out who I want, who I am, and what I want, maybe I can figure my way out of here. And eventually, like I just kept Googling that. And within a year, I found my way to the Enneagram. And it turned out that did have the nugget that I was missing. I was doing all of the wrong things because I wasn't listening to myself and what I wanted to do and who I was. What keeps me practicing? I've grown so much because that happened to me. So I first started Googling in 2016. I found the Enneagram in 2017, and it made such a fundamental difference on my life because I came to it in this time of crisis. I took it very seriously. And it was really hard, but I pushed through. And the more I pushed through and the deeper I went, the more my life around me just completely transformed. So I feel like now I'm addicted to transformation. And I really have that evidence of where I can go. So I feel like it's almost not a choice, but it is a choice. And that's why I still practice.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful. Choice is big, and I'm glad you started out with that. And choice is big for type nines at the top of the triangle. Anna, do you want to go next? And then we'll do John and Annette.
Sure. I kind of have a similar story, but I didn't have like a muscle breakdown. But I just had a burnout at work and I had like a lot of medical issues because of work, because I was actually constantly doing in my work, but I was not doing it for me. I was doing it for everyone else, to keep everyone else happy. And I took everything on too much. And that was what led me to the burnout. And then after that, I went to the exact opposite, which was I quit my job and then I looked to find something to figure out why this happened and understand myself through that. experience. And at my next job, I went through the exact opposite, which was probably sloth, which is I'm just not going to care anymore.
Mm.
And not get myself involved in everyone else's drama that was occurring at work, and just created myself a box of these are my tasks and this is what I will do. But at a meditation retreat, like still processing and realizing how much of the trauma I took on from that job to my next job, um, someone just recommended me the Enneagram to look at
Mm.
it. And I just remember reading it and saying, yeah, I want harmony, but I just don't get it. So I didn't really believe that I was a type 9 when I first read it, because I said, yeah, that's what I want, but that's not what my life is. And so like through that, like getting deeper and deeper into the Enneagram, and doing a lot of the inner work and all of the, just as Sophia said, seeing my life change externally, um, as I was doing all of the work is yeah, it's very similar, which is like I know that it just felt right. Like this was the right way. And I just felt like I knew that this was the way that needed to go in order to understand myself,
Yeah.
if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Thank you.
That's what's the motivator.
I like how you pointed out this wanting of harmony, because usually for every type, the desire, it's like, yeah, I can't get that. And that's a clue that that is your type. It's because our type patterns often block the exact thing that we're wanting.
Mm.
Um, so we'll unpack that. And I also love how you brought up the similarity between 2 and 9. And I want people to really hear all types can want to help each other. And we've heard it several times so far. But again, at 9, 9s and 2s are often mistyped for each other because of that. 2 likes to people please, and 9's trying to keep the peace. So do it for everyone else. Thanks, Anna. John, what do you want to add here?
I would have to say that I'm very much a beginner, and I'm not even sure I'm a practitioner. I'm still learning and trying to do it, but I have been exploring consciousness for a long, long time. And my friend Beth has been doing Enneagram for a long time, so she got me involved. I think my life as a 9 really started at about 20 when I started meditating. And once I realized that I could go into this calm, connected, wonderful place, um, uh, I just, that was so helpful. And, for a 9, that's like coming home.
Delicious.
So that, and that you could choose that when you're upset or sad or scattered. Um, and I did more studies in different schools and different things, but really that was probably the most life-changing thing, that I felt I could choose uh, to deal with things in a positive way, and to have that connection. And I just thought, why isn't this on billboards? But so that was really it. And so I'm still learning about the Enneagram. I went to a metaphysical school. It had Gurdjieffian thing influences. I've studied astrology, um, and all these different things. And it's so many interesting and wonderful ways of approaching consciousness. So I very much am enjoying your book, and the people in the talks, and I'm embracing it and learning from it. So
Awesome.
that's
Yeah. Thanks, John. And I really like your accentuating what Sophia brought up is this choice, and this choice that the piece is always there. It's always there. And I also love, all your studies. The Enneagram, I often will say this, the Enneagram really isn't a thing. The Enneagram is a collection of all the things that you mentioned, everything that you mentioned, um, is part of the Enneagram teachings. So it's really this huge collection. And I love finding the Enneagram in astrology. I love finding the Enneagram in astronomy and astrology. And I have a friend who's finding the Enneagram in tarot, and just there it's just everywhere because it's this thread of truth. And it's not really Enneagram, it's just where that teaching is part of the Enneagram. Annette, wrap us up on this first question. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm actually Danish, so yeah, we still have Greenland in our kingdom. Who knows how long?
Yay! Yay!
Okay. Sorry, I just had to drop that in an American forum, but so yeah. But so yeah, I actually were asked to tell a bit about us. So I'm 45, and yeah, what can I say? So I was together with a partner for 25 years, from I was 16 to I was 40, and he was 12 years younger. So I kind of just, I've heard this story from many other nights. And I got 2 kids very early, so now I have 3 grandkids. Besides that, I took an education in biology, a PhD, and I'm an associate professor at the university. And I run a student dorm as a headmaster on top of that. So I'm too busy. So when I kind of first started to read about the Enneagram, that was actually around 5.5 years ago, when I had a boyfriend that time that started a coach education about the Enneagram. He was an 8 and I was a 9, and we were just running our patterns, but we kind of read it, but we couldn't see it. So it didn't last. But when I first read about the 9, I think, I can read it as part of it, because I've always been conflict avoidant. But there was also a part of it that I didn't recognize, the sloth, the thing. I was busy all the time, so I didn't understand why. I mean, I didn't like routine, so there was a lot of things that I didn't connect in, and I saw myself a lot in the 2 and in the 7 and so on. But yeah, I have to say I settled on the 9, and then when I started to learn a bit about the instincts, then it made more sense. So in me, the social and sexual are running very high, and my self-press is kind of running very low. Yeah. So I mean, I think what resonates very, what I also had hard time grasping in the beginning in the description was this basic fear concerning separation and fragmentation. I couldn't see it. I couldn't understand it. I said, no, no, no. I'm connected to everyone all the time. I have no fear of that. So yeah, so it's just interesting how I later could recognize these things in me. And I mean, I really enjoy the Enneagram. I mean, I started with the wisdom of the Enneagram, read that, and then a friend of mine was part of the Danish EIA, and I'm kind of involved in EI in EI Denmark. And what I mean, so I was thinking a bit. So the Enneagram is really for me a kind of a skeleton on that I can use for understanding myself, but equally as important to understand others, understand their way of being in the world. And I think that's very yeah, that's, I mean, both these things are very important for me, because I mean, what's most important for me is actually that everybody around me have a nice time, are good, that there are no conflicts, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So then it's nice to understand how I can help them. That's just, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And I think I love that you bring up we cannot and we should not, please, make assumptions of any type based on a word. Words are so difficult. And a lot of the words in the Enneagram, especially in the classic books, are derived from psychological science that was translated from Spanish to English. And like words like sloth, we can't think that nines are lazy people because they're not. And nine, Russ Hudson talked a lot about this in the audio tapes, you know, that they're not that they don't get things done. And in fact, my daughter, as an example, will get a lot of stuff done, but it has nothing to do with what she needs to get done. So that's where the fragmentation comes in. She'll be
Yeah.
super busy and she has, organized her whole refrigerator, taken everything out, but she really needed to get this, assignment in or something. So it's understanding the lens from a deeper, not just the words. Please don't make any assumptions with the words. And Annette, I just want to challenge you a little bit. Can you tell us, because this is so common when we're learning our type, when we first hear things, I know I did the same thing. It's like, no, I don't do that. I don't do that. And you mentioned about fragmentation. You're like, I don't fragment. But then you said, oh, then I saw it. Can you give us an example?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, now you actually gave a really good example of your daughter. It's a bit like, when I can, I mean, when I have to tidy up my house, I can suddenly end up doing something completely different, or on my way to, picking up the vacuum sucker, it disappears. And that can actually also be when if I'm a bit in a social setting, I can also sometimes get a bit fragmented because where do I have to choose to put my attention? That
Very
that's
good.
part that could be examples, yeah.
Very
And
good.
then maybe on an inner level, there is also sometimes some fragmentations that deals with putting stuff away. So I'm kind of actually fragmenting myself because I don't want to look at all the stuff that hurts, or so then I I want to stay in this peaceful place. So yeah.
Yeah. And you bring up, when we think about this triangle and the nine is at the top of the triangle, the nine is the center of the gut, but they also have that deep connection with the center of the head and the center of the heart. That's a lot of input, a lot. Anyway, I could keep going down that rabbit hole, but I want to go to my next question. And Anna, we're going to have you go first and then go John, Annette, and Sophia finish up with this one. So the second question was why and how do the descriptors mediator, wise one, harmonist, peacemaker describe you? And are there other words that you prefer?
Um, I don't know if I would actually see myself in any of these terms.
Good, good.
I would
Yeah,
I would say that I have the desire for sure, or I would have had the desire in the past to be someone to be able to harmonize the situation. Like, so if there's a conflict, and there would always be a bit of fear in the conflict that if it wasn't resolved, then something bad would happen, etc. So that would be maybe the driver. And I would say that I would not have been able to achieve the harmony that I might have wanted to have achieved in these situations, but rather maybe even caused more, how do you say, more problems. Because in the end, I would not be able to relate to the person on the emotional level, and I would be much more giving advice of what they could do to resolve whatever issue that is going on there. And that happened once in my relationship between my ex-partner and a friend of ours, where I came in, and then in the end, we all ended up not being friends because they wanted all of us to get along, but in the end, all of the hurt was not being addressed that occurred in the
yeah,
situation. And
yeah.
it was not like a concentration of mine. I just wanted everyone to be good on good terms with each other. and being able to hang out with each other and do things with each other. So, I mean, when I read those terms, it's not that I identified with them at all. I would rather say I don't actually get the achieved or like the wish in
Yeah.
that. But I can see like with how learning more about the Enneagram, learning about the different types, learning my own emotional realm and what I was capable of at the time, I could see how in the end I was not able to hold that space for any of them because my only thing was let's just all get along kind of thing.
Yeah.
Let's just
Yeah.
just go and say sorry without recognizing why he was upset in the first place. Um, well, a different term, I guess I don't know if I would actually like to have a term because I realized that in the end, and just seeing other people at type 9, I find it a little bit more frustrating now to see to see the attempt at harmonizing on this on the type 9 level. And so I think that my desire would be that there is no term. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I think you're really describing the spectrum, and thank you for fleshing it out for the spectrum of the type and where you're at and also the movement at the heart to the spectrum at point 3, because the average presentation at 3 is to just give a solution and let's
Mm,
not talk about the emotion. You know?
mm,
let's let's not go there, because for both the 9 and the 3, it's too much conflict. I don't want, that's too uncomfortable. So I really
mm,
appreciate you highlighting that, and also highlighting into the journey for the 9. It can be so scary. It's to step into your power, to speak up your truth, to own your gifts. And yeah, those are big descriptors. Wise one, harmonist,
Mhm.
peacemaker, mediator. I can feel even in my own body. Oh my gosh, that feels like a lot of conflict could be there. So I loved your honesty of saying, yeah, none of them. Thanks.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I know, yeah, and in the past, I know that I have been called wise, and but I just never really connected with it either. Like I would just say, what is wise about that? That is just how I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's just your natural gift.
mm, mm.
Yeah. Thank you. John, what do you want to add?
Well, I would say mediator. I actually took a 40-hour course at CDR in Boulder on conflict resolution and mediation as I was going doing my teacher prep. And I read this book about second careers or something, and it resonated so much with me. I still have, the magic of conflict. It's like there is something good of conflict when you can go into it and emotionally and solve, work together to do something. So why conflict is kind of scary in a way, well, we are provided with an abundant source of more conflict than we need. But so, yeah, a peacemaker. I had a unique laboratory that I got to practice a lot of these things. And I worked for 16 years as a waiter at the Buckhorn Exchange, a historic steakhouse. Um, and I was really a peacemaker and a harmonizer. And, I remember changing my point of view from I have to go to work to I get to. I love
Mm,
the history. I love the interaction with people. I love reading them and seeing what do they want. Did they want the history? Did they want weird things like elk and buffalo and rattlesnake? Or they just wanted dinner? And no one ever quit. So we all had to get along. So that came in real handy. And I mean, I went back, I left to be a teacher in uh, 95, I went back before COVID. 9 people I worked with there still worked there. And my busboy was now the general manager. So it was this incredible laboratory of harmonizing, taking care of everybody. I mean, I remember I'd see people walk in, she looks tired, he looks upset, and trying to bring everything together. And it was so much fun, and we all made money. So that was a wonderful place to practice all those qualities. And then I became a teacher, which provided even more places to practice all those things. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I'm wise, but I'm open minded and open hearted, and that'll get you pretty far along the path. So,
Beautiful, beautiful. I wrote down what I heard you say, resistance to choice, and that's big for the body types and for the body type in all of us is to move from resistance to choice. And it makes me think about bringing back in the symbolism. So the body types are part of the circle. They're that law of one, but they're connected to that triangle. And when we think of the law of three, it's polarities, it's resistance, it's duality. And so the point nine brings us from that resistance to that third way, to that union, to the circle. Pretty cool, you guys. It's big and it's all part of you all. All right. Annette, what do you want to add on?
So, I think I can see myself more or less in all the descriptors. But I actually like peacekeeper better than peacemaker because I think that's where we most often are. At least I am. I mean, I want to keep the peace, and I really have to do an effort if I have to make the peace. So in a way, I mean, it's much more proactive, and I like to be a peacemaker, but that only happens when I'm engaged. And my natural state is just the no, to keep the peace. And then I was thinking a bit because back in time before I didn't know the Enneagram, I thought, oh, I mean, I see myself as this hippie girl, not the way I necessarily dress. I'm not as that's much seven, but this peace, love, and harmony. That's really my motto. If we can have fun, but peace, love, and harmony at the same time, that's just my universe. Yeah.
Isn't there a
Yeah.
song, Peace, Love, and Harmony?
Yeah.
Yeah, and hope everybody's feeling this essence, these words that keep getting repeated, and how the spectrum
Yeah.
of the
I
last three
actually, yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead,
also,
Annette.
I was thinking because for me, so when you can do different meditations or so on, but whenever I in meditation have hear the word peace, then it's just everything just lands in me. It's really, it's really my word to find. Yeah.
Yeah, and we go back to what John said, the deeper work or the spectrum where we really awaken at nine is this remembrance of choice that we can choose to go to work instead of have to go to work. That's such a great example of the awakened
Hmm.
state. I can choose peace regardless of what it looks like around me, regardless that we have a person at our helm who's claiming Greenland is his. As you started, we can
Yeah.
find peace within ourselves and hold that energy for the world.
But
All
that
right.
that that really requires, I think I can say for myself, a lot of practice to do that.
Yes.
Even though I do the practice, and it's really when I'm exposed to the world, it really, whew, yeah,
Yeah. Well, you guys are getting, like I said, you're getting a lot of input, mental and emotional, and you're
mm,
very sensitive to the physical. So it's a lot. Yes, it's a big practice. And a big practice for all of us, but especially from the nine lens. Yes. Yeah. But it's easier just to check out. Sophia, what do you want to add here? A lot's been said.
Yeah, and I agree with so much of it. Um, I I've never liked the language at point nine, mostly because I've never really connected with it. You know, when I was trying to figure out my type, if I just read the type descriptions, I just would have said that's not me. Like I don't recognize the word peace. I don't recognize the word harmony. Like what is the inner peace even? Like, and it was kind of part of it was I don't know who discovered water, but it wasn't a fish. Um, and so I couldn't find it that way, but the way that I did figure out that that was me was looking at you know, some of the behaviors and kind of figuring it out from there. Um, and once I started really getting into it, some of the words started to hit. You know, the word merge, that is like, okay, I understand that, especially when I heard Beatrice Chestnut's fusion. I'm like, okay, that makes sense with how I understand my world. Because like there's two reasons for labels, right? One is so that we can find ourselves, and the other is so people can look at us. And for finding myself, the words like merge and even harmonize is kind of close to that once I started narrowing it down. I do like those, but kind of my first response is what Anna said. Like, I don't want any word. Like, you know, for people looking in, like, I don't, and maybe that's connected to the nines not really seeing themselves as somebody, but I don't know. It's just like, it doesn't feel like something that can be contained in a word.
Yeah, I see. I'm thinking it's the opposite. I'm thinking it's the nine is because we're everything. So don't limit me with a label.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like it fits. Like if I look at peacekeeper or peacemaker, like, okay, I can do that. It takes an awful lot of energy. You know, I've been in a situation this week where there's like people with multiple perspectives and just simply holding all of those perspectives in one space. That's a lot of energy. Is that who I am? Like, hopefully not most days, or I'm going to be in a puddle. Yeah, it can't be contained in a word, and those words just never really hit. Um,
Yeah. I
but
love I love you bringing that up, and I love you saying it over and over because the words are so limiting, and they can really be interpreted in so many ways. And I love you fleshing out fusion felt more accurate to you. Merging felt like maybe it's there. So we cannot attach to the words, and that's why these panels are so, so precious. In that we get a feeling from you guys. And thank you for expanding on that question. I'm sure we could go further. There's a little comment JJ is saying. Let's see. Can add a word for the fun of it. Metaphorical air traffic controllers. Yeah. I find it the journey for the nine would be to find how it can take less effort. So the move away from the resistance and the move into power. And I'm sure that's as big as the journey at my type. It's huge and just unpacking that. But it gives us a perfect segue. And John, we'll start with you this time and we'll go around the same way. Reflecting on the spectrum of your type, so where you are at your best and where you are at your most challenged, can you share an example of how when your many gifts become your challenges? And some of you have already touched upon this already. In fact, Sophia just touched upon it. It's like there's all these views and it's so exhausting to manage all that. So this journey with your fixations versus your holy idea, and the same thing with your passions versus your virtue. So big question, just throw out whatever feels right for you. How do you want to answer that one, John?
Well, I guess my fixation can be, checking out, indolence, not doing anything. But then that comes more on a personal level. Like I can be very slothful at vacuuming my house or something, but when I'm interacting with people, I it doesn't come up that much, like in my job or in things like that. Um, and uh, I guess I don't know. This isn't real wide. I didn't really. I was trying to think of yeah. And what's the other thing where I'm talking about my? I took some notes, but I had to put my glasses on. Versus okay, fixation. What's the other thing we're talking about? The fixation versus
The fixation in the holy idea,
the holy idea. Okay, good. I
that's in the head, and
the
the
holy idea is love. And so that's why when I'm in a group, like say I'm on the board of Apogea, Colorado's regional Burning Man, I'm in the group, I'm able to uh, connect with others and try to do all these things that nines do. And it's not a lot of times that much effort. It's just uh, yeah. So, where I get stuck is just being stupid by myself more than I'm stupid with other people. I don't know how that answers the question, but it like in the job as a teacher or at working at the Buckhorn, I wasn't checking out or being slothful. I was motivated by the situation and all the other people. So in a way, that brings out, you know, my own personal checking out in my own personal space is one thing, but when I'm engaged with others, it doesn't really come up at that point. So I mean, I can be a time waster and checking out or something, but when I'm actually engaged as a teacher or waiter or a board member, it doesn't come up in that way. So I don't know if that adds anything to the conversation, but that's about all I got to say.
I appreciate it. We feel the energy, I think, and it's this calmness, you know. It's not aggressive.
No,
That's
and it's not really a peacemaker. It's more a peace holder.
yeah,
If I
yeah,
have peace in my heart, and luckily, after all these things that you've gone through and learned and meditation and calmness and practice, it's not. Yeah, I mean it's challenging at certain times, but a lot of times it's not that hard to just be a peace holder.
yeah,
I mean, you get engaged and you get triggered in different things. So there's always more to learn. But in another way, it's not, effort. What's just like the Taoist things of, everything is done, do nothing in a really good way and effortlessness and be a peace holder. So
yeah.
I don't
And
know.
I think as I understand it, and I wonder if others will speak on this, it's the challenge of not falling into peace from a place of forgetting yourself. So remembering yourself, your needs, your opinions, your thoughts, your feelings, remembering all that and still holding the peace. So being able to share from a neutral space. Yeah. Right. Annette, what do you want to add on? You're the nine. You tell us.
Yeah. I mean, I can maybe go a bit from there. So what I didn't recognize the sloth in the beginning when I read, but then when I mean, but I am actually often very slothy. I don't know how to call it, when it concerns my own energy. So, I can get super excited at work. There's a lot of people to engagement, teaching, new projects, but I forget to feel in my body whether I have the energy. And then it pays back because then suddenly I get a migraine because my body can't stand it. Then pills, and then I'm up again. But it is really because I forget to check in.
Yeah.
So that's really one thing. Then another thing, I'm also a good procrastinator, at least in maybe not so much on work when there are deadlines set up by others, but yeah, I have an old, stupid example from my marriage. So when I progressed in my career, I got the opportunity to go to conferences in different European countries or even abroad, and that was super exciting. I was thrilled for this, but I sensed that he didn't like it. So I kind of didn't say it. I didn't say it. I had made up my mind right away, bought the ticket, but I postponed it. It was weeks maybe before I suddenly told him. And then instead of really being honest about what an opportunity and I like this, it was, oh, oh, I have to do it. I mean, it was so silly. And
Yeah.
also the all the time and energy I used on that. So yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, the resistance to, so again, you're describing that journey from 9 to 3, that resistance of just being authentic and honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I thought it would, yeah,
Create conflict.
create conflicts and some,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good example. Thank you. Sophia, what do you want to add or expand on?
Oh, so relate to that last story. I wanted to talk about the gift of the 9 to see all sides of something. And really, I feel like that gift has defined my whole life in good ways and bad ways. In good ways, it does help with, the conflict. When used in a healthy way, it's really useful for doing all kinds of things at work. When is it not useful to know another person's perspective? Um, but a couple times when I've gotten in trouble, so a frequent thing that happens to me in my life is I'll be kind of relaying something that happened to me that was unfair. So an example I'm thinking of is like a workplace bully, and I'm telling my spouse about what happened that day. And when this happens, I'm not really aware of how it was unfair to me because I'm just imagining myself as someone who doesn't matter. So therefore, unfairness to me, it doesn't quite hit always. I'm sometimes not aware. And so when I'm telling a story, the other person feels anger on my behalf. That
Mm.
happens a lot.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
and when they feel anger on my behalf, it's like I recoil from that. And my response is, standing up for the bully. Oh, he had a hard day. But there was a reason behind that. And so I'll play like they'll be trying to defend me and I'll be defending against the person like it just kind of
Great
turns into
example.
funny. It's like, yeah, the more they try and support me, the more I'm trying to push back. It's that resistance. And it also gets me into trouble when the person I'm in relation with is telling me a story of when they were treated unfairly. I have this very unfortunate habit of, like if they're saying, oh, I have a workplace bully and they're talking about that stuff, I might jump in and say, oh, he must be having a hard day, which is like the last thing that they want to hear. And if I want to be a supportive friend, that's not what I should be saying. I am getting better at that, but it's definitely just seeing all the sides. Sometimes you need to take a side, even for a little bit. And sometimes that's a good thing. Um, and I just Like when I was really in my patterns, I would get so focused on another person's agenda or opinion, whoever's in the room with me that I care about. And I just get so lost in it, um, which is great for support. Like it's nice when people can support each other. Like when I see other people working with each other's agendas, that can do a lot and bring a lot. And I know that I bring that, but it's got a dark side if you use it too much, right? Like everything in the Enneagram. Like I wish as a nine, more people could be more invested in supporting each other. That would be great. But I notice when I get too much into their agendas, um, like when it's in an unhealthy way, it's like there is that false peace. So it kind of feels like peace, but underneath, there's a part of myself that I'm rejecting that doesn't want that. And at least my flavor of nineness, I would just completely dissociate from that and not even know that that was happening. So the way that I found my type is um, seeing patterns that kind of looked like passive aggressiveness, but I couldn't figure out where they were coming from because I'm like, what do I have to be angry about? I literally just hid that so much from myself, that it brings up, like we've been talking about when you seek something, you wind up sabotaging it. So in seeking the feeling of peaceful connection, I was now feeling complete conflict on the inside and not at all connected to reality, but I thought that I was.
Right.
And it's a little bit difficult for other people to be around that because they kind of sense something's not quite right, or it feels like it's right, but they just feel like you're kind of gone a little bit, like you're not quite there.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Yeah. Yeah. You cover that was great. Thank you. Thank you. I don't even have anything to add. It's just that was a great description. Anna, no pressure, but you're next.
Right. I'm not feeling the pressure, only when you tell me what I should say.
No, no.
Actually, just jumping on the train there, what Sophia was saying, I do remember someone asking me, like, if nines can see all the perspectives, like, what's the opposite side of not seeing everyone else's? And I was like, I don't see my side. Right? Like, that's the point. That's the other scale, is I see everyone else's. I can totally understand, very much relate, and then at the same time, just not have my own story
Right.
in that perspective. It's like not there. And it really goes into, I know we're not really talking about it, but like the body, right? We don't really talk about it and how actually nines operate. And this is something that I've been realizing, which is that it's actually we're merging with our bodies with other people so that, yeah, it's not two people, it's one person. And that I disappears
Yeah.
in that merge. And it's actually not even connection anymore. And this is something that I'm learning in the last couple of months, like this difference between actually connecting with the person while still being myself,
Yeah.
while still
Holding that autonomy. Yeah, it's called self-forgetting. Yeah. I love
yeah.
that you brought this up. Keep going. Keep going.
Exactly. And I'm actually like now learning how physically, like, actually it's a very beautiful skill to have, which is to merge into another person and to experience the world through another person, because I can very much be enmeshed in like, oh yeah, I can see what you're seeing and I can feel what you're feeling and I know the body experience of it just by having you tell this story, but I completely lose myself in it. And I'm not really connecting with the person from like this authentic, I'm me and you're you. It's more like now I'm you. And it's much stronger for sure in relationships and as a social in the group context. I just lose like the hardest thing that I could answer at work was, what is it that you want? And I
Mm,
just thought, oh my gosh, this like realm of what I want is this empty space. I can't even have a finger or feeling of what it is that I truly want for myself. I can say the game, which is like I know what that person is expecting of me because I've merged with them. And so I can just, if there are three, I can just say, oh yeah, typical things that you would say in a company context of what you want, career, whatever. And it's not like truly what I want, because after I do it, and this is when I realize when I don't want to do something, is when I'm actually doing it. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, why am I doing this? How did I get myself into this situation? Like, why am I like hating this thing? And then afterwards, just be like, okay, I'm over the anger, like that forgetting myself. And I've been getting in touch with a lot of my own anger and realizing that my anger is about forgetting myself,
Yeah.
Mm.
and always thinking about the other person. Because I know that it's hard to imagine, but our mind just does not go to us. It's just always the other.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm,
and I've also heard teachers say, just ask the nine what they want. And I just like, that's the hardest thing for us to answer. Like, there's just nothing there. If you ask us, we can sit there for 2 hours and not get in touch with like what it is that we truly want because it's such a foreign thing. And I remember
Yeah,
just feeling,
it could take my daughter 2 days. So,
yeah. And even if we said what we wanted, it might be actually what we think you expect us to say.
right.
Right? Like it could be a merged answer of what it is that we say, yeah, yeah, I want that. And then only realize while we're doing it, oh, this is actually not what I want. So what I don't want is very clear. Like once
Yeah,
I
that's a great thing to ask a nine is what do you not want? I've heard
exactly.
that. I've heard that because they're very quick about what they don't want.
And with the whole merging part, like you're not going to get the actual answer to what they want or what I want. And I mean, I get even more frustrated. I get more angry because then it becomes like this very obvious point where it says, I have no connection to myself.
Yeah, it brings up
mm,
conflict.
Yeah, it is that conflict. And even though I'm saying yes, the merging is this confusion of wanting to connect, but I think that our ultimate connection point is really to ourselves first,
Yeah.
like
I love that
connecting
you
to
brought
ourselves
up,
to the
yeah,
other.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you brought up the anger piece because many times people don't understand how, the anger is the emotion of the body types. And
Mhm.
thank you for really describing it's this internalized anger. Um, does it
Mhm.
ever come
And
out
it's directed at
external?
ourselves.
Does it ever come out external for you?
I mean, as I like the first step for me was to actually allow anger because there's a lot of self-blame for anger, a lot of self-hatred because I get
Resisting. Yeah.
blame because it's completely opposite of what we think is right.
Or good.
I have been allowing it, and I have a type one as a partner, and he has been, but like, okay, type
mm.
ones have a lot of mercy because the moment I'm able to get in touch with myself and see what my pain is and express my apologies and my like apologize to him afterwards, like it's all clear. But I have been really able to get into my anger with him and then get in touch with. So like the only path that I've actually been able to find what I truly want is through my own anger, which means that the person has to be able to sit there and listen to me like yell at that person
Yeah.
before I'm able to redirect to myself and to be able to hold that. And but like beforehand, I started to tell him, I was like, okay, I'm angry. I want you to not take anything on. I don't want you to change, but I would tell you I want you to change. But you changing is making it comfortable for me, and that's not what I want. And I just need to go through this process to figure out what I want.
Mm.
Wow.
And so that has really helped with like for him too, because before, like when it came to arguing, he would just be like, do I just sit here and listen? And I'm like, and the hard part with that question is it's hard for us to accept things for us. So I have a hard time receiving. So when he says, just listen, you want me to just listen? I couldn't accept him just listening to me because then it felt like he has to put an effort for me. And that means that I would be valuable as a person to be listened to. So I couldn't answer with a yes, please. It was more like a struggle, like,
Yeah,
it's like,
please.
but I can't want it. That was like a hard time, but eventually I have told him, yes, please just listen to me. Don't say
Yes.
anything, give me advice, do not get rational, do not make me feel better. Just listen.
Mm.
That
Wow.
really helped. Yeah.
Very, very powerful share. Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you.
Wow.
Mhm. All right, next question. I'm looking at the time. I want to leave time for you guys in the audience to ask them questions. So, Annette, we're going to go first with you on this fourth question. And thank you all. That was powerful sharing what you just did. Um, so, Annette, what else would you like us to know about your personality? I've missed a lot. This is just a short intro. So, what would help you if we could just understand it?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I mean, yeah, thank you, Anna. That was very, very powerful. And all, I mean, also this anchor thing, it's also very difficult for me to get in contact with my anger, but oh, but when I do, when I get really, really angry, I don't get scared in the moment. I get so much power. I get so much action, but that's when it's really, and it rarely happens. But I have realized that I, okay, maybe that I feel a lot of, recently that I actually have a lot of pain. It's not anger. In the first minute, in the first beginning was anger for myself forgetting, but it's so much pain. And I couldn't really stand it. But with my therapist, I was through this. But, and now it's kind of, when I forget myself and I don't get in connection with this little, yeah, something in my heart that is painful for myself forgetting,
Mm.
then I miss it. So I'm not uncomfortable there anymore. And I think that have actually helped me uh, see not my anger, but that I'm frustrated and sometimes get annoyed. So that's a type of anger I feel through the day. But when people talk about anger, then it's very explosive. But I do have a lot of things during my day. I get super annoyed sometimes when people can't really behave right, or yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I think that maybe we Nines have to understand that anger doesn't always have to be a big emotion. It can be a subtle emotion. We've probably stuffed it down a lot. And what actually can make me sad and also angry is uh, when people doesn't listen to me, or or talk over me, or yeah, or mansplaining at me, that I can actually get very angry. But I mean, but that's so, because then I'm getting, I think, a mirror in front of me telling me, oh, you don't matter. What you just told, or what you just gave in, it doesn't matter. And then and yeah, then I normally withdraw, right? And I
Yeah,
can think there. Yeah. So that's,
Mm,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you described that that lie that you were told. But I also think for all types, but especially for the 8, 9, and 1, it's and Anna talked about this too. It's the misunderstanding of emotional intelligence, which when emotional intelligence is misunderstood, anger is demonized as something bad, as something not good. And especially for the female gender, it's often, totally not acceptable. It's more acceptable that men can be angry, but not women. Hopefully that's going away. But it's forgetting that anger, like you just said, Annette, can be very positive. It can be a force. It's a Kundalini energy. It's a red energy that gets us up and going and gets us remembering we are important, gets us speaking up for ourselves. And it doesn't have to be unhealthy anger is destructive, but healthy anger is very creative. So thank you for bringing that up. Sophia, we're going to move to you and then Anna and finish up with John. Sophia, what do you want to add?
I so relate to interrupting. It's such a big topic when it comes to nines. And I am embarrassed, but there's something I used to do. Because it's like when there's something that is important to you that you want to say, um, it but it's not necessarily aligned with the other person. Like maybe it's conflicting, or maybe you just think you're going to bore them. It's just, it doesn't line up. It's really hard to bring it up in the first place. Like I kind of like, should I say it? Should I say it? And then if I finally start saying it, and then the other person interrupts me, I would have that very same, oh, I guess it's true. You don't want to hear what I have to say, wanting to withdraw. And sometimes then what would happen is the other person say, "Oh, I'm sorry for interrupting you. What were you going to say?" And I'm embarrassed, but I used to use it as kind of a test. Like if you don't remember what I was like, so I would say, "Oh, I don't remember," and see if they would prompt me. Because if they would prompt me, then maybe they really wanted to hear what it was. And it's just
Wow.
it's just such a way of self-forgetting.
Mm.
And just taking up as least space as possible. So I guess
Wow.
if there's something that I would love people to know about nines is if your nines start speaking up, if they start bringing something that is different or challenging, like make space. Like that's what we tend to do for other people. And I think we really need that ourselves, like um when you argue with someone, a lot of times having an argument, people will see it as like, who gets to be right? I'm going to defend my point. I expect you to defend your point. Let's go at it. But if you do it like that with a nine, I'm just going to get hit once and withdraw and
Mm.
just immediately capitulate and say the things that I know you want me to say. So if you want to have a constructive argument with a nine, like give me a soft landing to put my conflict. Really accept the difficult things that I'm like the best people that I have really good connections with because we have really good conflicts together. If I say something challenging, they leave space for it. They don't push against it. They don't um, try and defend themselves. It's like, no, I'm just going to create this little space for it to be. Um, and that's extremely helpful. And I think that's helpful at whatever stage of development you're at for a nine. It's just like, there's a giving space by inviting, like, what's on your mind? What would you like to do? Is there any place you don't want to go for dinner? Those sorts of things are good, but also that soft landing and acceptance when we do say something so we don't pull back and withdraw would be great. Um, I feel like for much of my life, I've been very blanket-like. Like people have described me as a comfortable blanket, like in the best possible way. Like
Yeah.
not a wet blanket, but just like that feeling of coming home. And I do kind of feel like a blanket because I kind of like I'm flexible and I mold to whatever is near me. But as I continue to grow in my Enneagram journey, I feel like the blanket is taking on shapes. Like I'm turning into a little bit of a rock with like there's some jagged edges sometimes. I do have opinions that maybe other people don't. And in those cases, it would be great if they're also flexible and it's not just two rocks banging because I'm not grown up enough to be able to take that. I'm still a little bit of soft rock, but I'm getting there. So
Mm.
soft landings are helpful.
Thank you. Yeah. I love everything that you share. And I love that your blanket's getting little edges to it because that means you're showing up real. I feel that comfort with my daughter. I call it comfort, that total acceptance from my daughter. Um, and I love that we can sit in quiet. Like the 9 doesn't demand from me. Thank you for letting us know how we can support you. And Anna, what do you want to add on? And then John.
Mm, I was going to say, like, along the same levels, I think the body center is unknown or not very well understood, especially or even in the Enneagram community, because we have, the mental intelligence, we have our heart intelligence, and most people, if they talk about body intelligence, thinks about the jock in high school who doesn't think, doesn't have feelings, just is like the ape. But I think that the body intelligence is very underestimated. And I'm realizing that I have a lot of more friends in the body center than I do in any of the other centers, although I could meet them there. And I think I feel much more in tune with those who are in the body center because we understand each other. Like we're speaking from the body. We are, it's about body language and this comfortable space that you build from body to body. And I think it would be very helpful for others to kind of understand that there is a body center with its own intelligence and its own intuition and knowledge and wisdom. And I feel like a lot of that for me was always pressed down, right? Because the external message has always been, don't listen to that. And like, where is that proof? Give me the evidence. Give me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Or for emotions, it would be, it's too many emotions, it's too big, it's et cetera, et cetera. But that like, yeah, the body has its own intelligence and sometimes it just needs to express the emotions in the way that it expresses it. And that's the body speaking the emotion out. And no, we don't need the data because our body has this intuition that says we need to move like this in order to, like have some practicality. And so a lot of times when I have to go into discussion, I do find it tiresome. If I get into contact with a head type who needs so much information in order to move rather than to just move, or someone who's staying
Mm.
too much in the emotions rather than, like letting it go through and just being in that space, that there is movement and that's what the body is, and I kind of would wish that that's understood because as a 9, I think that our mechanism is to turn off our bodies as well, because externally we're told your intuition is not as valuable as the other ones. And since we don't see ourselves as valuable, then we don't trust ourselves anymore. And so a lot of this journey has been, for me at least, to trust myself and to trust this intuition that my body has had and this instinctual, like energetic feeling that I have, and to trust when someone doesn't feel right, right? Whereas I would like mentally just say, yeah, I should understand their perspective rather than just being like, actually, he doesn't, right? Or she doesn't, like, so there's something off that I'm sensing, but now I'm gaslighting myself to say I should understand their perspective.
Yeah.
I think that's something that could be maybe more researched or thought about in the Enneagram community as well.
Well, I have something to, there is a huge movement. They've heard you, Anna. They've heard you. There is a huge movement. It's the somatic Enneagram.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of teachers. Andrea Isaac's been doing it a long time, but Marianne Gilbert is another one that comes to mind. Um, and it's really based in the understanding that the intuition is actually not in your head, it's in your gut.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes through your heart and then into an idea. And you really highlighted this cultural suppression. And I think it's been intentional because what you're touching upon is connecting to the body intelligence is our power. And there has been a lot of disempowering through religion, through culture, through politics. And I think you're right, 100%. And I so love that you brought this up and the importance of tuning in, tapping in, as a yoga instructor. Yes, yes, yes. It's all about tuning in, tapping in to this instinctual wisdom. And yeah, thank you.
And
You,
just to kind of point out, because I've had like a lot of discussions with body types, just because in the end they're the ones that I can relate to the most. Because I'll always say, I have this feeling and like then describe it. So, and I realized that eights, they just move because it's so instinctual, or they're very like owing into emotion with their body, but they're not able to explain it because they just say, yeah, I just know it. Whereas
Mm.
for me, I have to like kind of work through all of the mush to understand what it is that I'm experiencing. And once I was able to explain it to several eights, they're like, yes, that's it, which is our whole intuition system is on scan the entire time. And it's like, does what this person say match with their feeling, matching with their action? And when the alarm is off, it's like, yeah, I don't feel good. And it's just, I don't feel good. And when it's like matching, like where the thought is matching the emotion, is matching the body in action, you're like, yeah, that's trust, which is like this, that feeling of why it's so important for body types to have like this sense of trust and distrust, or the justice or injustice, which is like such a bodily feeling. And I was just really starting to understand that in the last couple of months, like really analyzing like why having this and then having type eights to kind of ping pong those experiences back. So this is just like further information that I thought would be very helpful in the group.
I love
Oh,
it. I love it. Thank you. Very helpful. John, what do you want to add on to finish up this question?
Well, I think uh, a long, long time ago, I read this book called Focusing the Felt Sense, which is obviously the body. And I kind of forget, I have it on my bookshelf over there. There's a huge movement now, especially with trauma. The body keeps the score. I read Gebauer Mate's The Myth of Normal, and the understanding of how really, I mean, I think our culture, it's head centered, not heart or body. And without everybody realizing their body, if you uh, you go to the doctor and you don't feel bad, and they never ask you about your past. I don't know if you've ever heard the ACEs survey, adversive childhood surveys. So all the things that affect you, but and it's not like you have to go to a psychologist, but when the body keeps the score. And so just everybody knowing that you have a body, that you have body wisdom, of course, heart wisdom, I'm into that too. I think that's that's not heart math is great for understanding that, but yeah, we're very head centered, head blind, I think, almost. We're like so blind we're in our heads, and our thoughts just spin around. And yeah, but you have a body. So yeah, if you practice yoga, or I mean, even meditation is a different head center from thought rumination. So just, yeah, everybody realizing you have a body, listen to it. Like it's that's what part of why we're here. We're having bodies. So yeah, that's a good thing. And yeah,
Thank
not
you.
just me has one, but you. And to tune in to the fullness of your expression. Presence, as I think Eckhart Tolle talks about, presence is your body and your heart and your mind. It's like use everything. Yeah.
And I find if I'm not pausing with my body, if I'm not tuning and tapping in, that's why we start the meditation. Feel your feet, feel your seat in the chair, feel the tension in your body. If I'm not connecting with that instinctual intelligence first, I'm going to fall into spiritual bypassing at the heart and the head. I'm just not even going to get there.
And
So,
somehow, I don't know, when I first started meditating, I had taken a class, but I didn't practice. But when I sat down to doing it, that's what I did. I felt every part of my body all the way through and then kind of unified, and then this energy. And I was all depressed. And 5 minutes later, I stood up with a smile on my face. Like, I can hardly wait till I'm depressed again. Well, I didn't, but it always did work. It's like, yeah, it's the wholeness. Is only through wholeness can you heal.
yeah, and that is at point nine. That's one of the mottos there is wholeness is only found through diversity. So, and the ACEs quiz that John mentioned is in the Empowered Living Workbook, if that's something that you're interested in taking. And I think everybody should. For some types, especially type 3, that strategy of denial, they can really deny what happened to them. And the ACEs helps you to see what happened to you that shaped you. And that can be culture, that can be religious influence, it can be family patterns, it can be the type patterns of your parents, it can be physical trauma, it can be mental trauma, emotional trauma. The ACEs will really help you to see that. Looking at the time, I'm going to hold that last question just because I want to open it up. Um, we have another 9, JJ. We have other people on the panel. Does anybody, and you can just do a raised hand. What question do you have for our panel? And JJ, I'll include you in the answering of these if you don't mind. Go ahead, Sang.
Do you guys experience your emotions primarily through your body, somatically, or how much is in the heart, and how much do you think about your feeling?
JJ, go
That's
ahead. Oh, wait, JJ raised his hand. Or do you want to answer or do you want to ask a question?
I'm going to ask after, but this
Okay.
body piece, the body piece is all, this is like why I'm here.
Okay.
But
Hold
go
on.
ahead, whoever else. I'll ask
All
my
right.
question later.
Sophia is gonna, we'll come right back to you. Sophia, go ahead.
Yeah, I absolutely get to my emotions through my body. Actually, before I found the Enneagram, I got to pretty much none of my emotions ever. And I found them by going through my body and connecting with, okay, what does that feel like? Where am I feeling it? Um, so that's definitely the first sense. I have recently, within the last year, been able to feel some sensations from my heart. It's a lot subtler and harder to get in contact with. So yeah, definitely through the body first is 100% how that feels. But it took a long time to even get there. I used to view myself as a consciousness with an inconvenience attached. So it's been a long way to get from that to actually getting the sensations to know what I'm feeling.
Thanks, Sophia. Anybody else want to comment?
I mean, I'll just on the body thing. My motto is mind over matter. I don't mind and I don't matter. So could physically power through anything, totally disassociate from the physical body and just roll through it for like my whole life, pretty much until the last 7 years. So I started meditating really heavy, like super heavy. And now I'm feeling all these body parts, like head, heart, right heart, right head, right gut, lower gut, and they're different. And that was the question I was going to ask these folks at some point later. Can you discern? Because I'm starting to discern other people's feelings by my body part, and it
Hmm.
in now that I've turned it back on, so it's sort of haha.
Yeah, thanks for that. Anna, you were going to answer Sang, but maybe you can answer both.
Yeah. I would have just said emotions. What? Like, huh? What emotions? Um, when I was younger, I mainly experienced a lot of anger, but that would only be around triggers and around people I cared about. And then I would be able to cry from the anger, but not really understand why, right? And like I actually realized that I find more, I I know what I'm feeling in my body while I'm feeling an emotion, but I actually find it a lot more frustrating for me now at the current moment to actually go through my body. I find more frustration because it's like I don't want to sense it, I want to feel it. So I would guess now it is more the case that I am feeling it more out of the heart space, whereas previously I would just use triggers. So that whenever I was triggered by something I was moved by a movie, then I would actually just allow myself to express the emotion rather than trying to use my body for it. Whereas before, but I am able to place then like the sensation in my body to the emotion, if that makes sense. So I am very aware of like physically what's on at the same time.
To me, it just seems like because you are the center of the body, the center of the heart, the center of the head, you have capacity for all of it, but it's also too much.
It's too much and it can be disconnected.
Yeah, I will have to
So
add that on that also. I mean, I think when I was a kid, it was actually that there were much more connection with everything. Maybe the head didn't need to understand it in the same way. And then I actually think that it was my understanding that kind of my head first lost the connection. Uh, so I think my emotions, most of the time goes in the body. Actually, it starts in the body. And sometimes it can go to the heart. And that's I mean the nice emotion, but also when I'm really sad. So on the kind of the high and the low end, it goes to my heart. But then that it's just so that there's a lot of other emotions and sensations in my body that I ignore. And now when I have started to work with it, it's actually also sometimes then it can come from my body to my heart. And I don't always understand what is it. Then I start, what is it? What is really going on? I mean, so yeah, I don't know whether some of you can recognize that you can have some emotions or sensations, and what is it really telling me? I don't understand with my head sometimes.
Yeah. I would say if I'm in my head, I started to notice that I ruminate, where I try to think of the situation that how it could run differently.
Mm,
That's me avoiding my feelings.
mm,
Right? Because I'm trying to solve the problem, like play it out differently. And my mind can go from rumination to rationalization,
mm,
actually. And when it does that, then I have gone into their practices. Okay, I'm in my head. So what emotion am I avoiding right now? And then when I try to play out like, okay, connecting to my heart, then I can actually start feeling my pain and then the thoughts can go away as well. Huh.
Yeah.
It's true. I can also recognize sometimes this kind of where the head just starts to ruminate, and then
Yeah,
it's so that there's kind of dissociation
yeah.
from the centers below. Yeah, it's strange.
definitely experienced where like rumination is a way to get away from emotions.
mhm,
And in this case, it's like that combined with other perspectives. So maybe someone wronged me, but I'm in my head thinking, oh, but it was by accident. And that is like the excuse that my head needs to cut off my emotions about it.
mm,
It's like you're not allowed to feel those emotions because there was a good reason and perspective for what they did. But then because I'm cut off, it's kind of like that energy gets stuck.
mm,
So
mm,
if I can just put that to the side and say, okay, that very well may be the case that they had a good reason for what they did. Nonetheless, let me close my eyes, get inside my body, see what sensations come up, let that full thing process,
Hmm.
and then move forward. And then I'm not using where they're coming from as an excuse not to feel. Then it's like this very rich, enlivening experience where I can show up as I'm supposed to instead of this very like flattening, I don't matter vibes that I can get if I just let the rationalizing take over.
That's really good. That was
You know,
really
it's like,
good. Go
you
ahead,
know,
Jim.
the silliness of blaming everything, you know, other people, your parents, your boss, you know, blaming everything else is a pretty much useless excuse. But if you're using it as an excuse to always see the other point of view and ignore yours, that's equally bad.
Yeah, I agree.
You can't, you know, instead of being mad, I'll realize, well, he was upset, or you know, she just had this, or they didn't realize how bad that made me feel. So you don't want to blame other people, but you don't want to give them
An
all
out.
your power away of your emotions. It's really not their fault. They didn't mean to do that. I mean, that's equally silly.
Mm-hmm. Stupid.
Does that answer the question?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, no, we don't feel it hearts.
Justin has a question. Go ahead, Justin.
Well, it's more of a statement, but thank you, Nines. It's very illuminating listening to all of you. And when I was teaching the Enneagram in high school, I used to tell my students, especially after we did a 9 panel, was that if you can't get along with a 9, you're the one with the problem. So, and if you want to comment, go ahead.
Agreed.
I don't fully agree.
Okay.
I would just say everything is 50-50 because you know that I could sit here and blame everyone else that I don't have a chance to speak, but I should just speak, right? Like that is our job to speak up. And our expectation as well, or I mean, the thought I could put behind it is, well, if they cared about me, they would ask me a question. And I, like last week, I just threw in a different thought, which was they care about me even when, like, they care about me and like that's not the truth. I just could see my mind just try to break down that original thought. And I had such a struggle with this, like this real fight in my mind. I was like, really interesting that I can't hold those two opposites. So it's still our job to speak up when we have something to say.
I think
Like that's the
that's so,
50.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting because it brings up the question of what does get along with mean?
Yes.
Right? If get along with means
Comfortable
not
again.
have an argument, absolutely. Like we're never going to start that. Um, and or work in tandem towards a goal like that. Like yes, that's going to work. But if what you want with a 9 is a good relationship, if you want with a 9 is true connection, that is 50-50 at least. Because that we 100% have the ability to cut off that connection with other people. So yeah, I think to me it comes to what is the definition of getting along with and what do you want from this relationship?
Mm,
Because
So like if I'm just a coworker and all we're doing is working on a project together and we're not getting along, yeah, it's probably not me. But if you're my partner and we're not getting along, it's very likely it's me. Not showing up in one way or another, and it's very much 50-50, in those situations.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
I would say it's our job to show up,
Yes.
you know. So, I mean, it's not our job to make you happy. It's not our job to make it comfortable. Like, we're supposed to be ourselves just as much as you are yourself.
Yeah. But it's also, I think, our job then to tell the people that are close to us how can they help us, because when we first have to step into this, it's a very vulnerable place. So by also telling them how they can help us on that journey, yeah, and then they can do it or not. That's that's our decision. And then what we do with that is our decision.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you guys are all capturing the spectrum of the type because a really unawakened, unhappy nine might appear to other types as you're getting along with them, but you're not seeing them. You're not knowing them. You're not,
Yeah, I mean, that you might look like you're getting along with them, but an unhealthy nine might also look like just full on resistance to everything.
sure,
It
sure.
could be the other, like I
Passive
had one,
aggressive. Yeah.
yeah, I had one therapist, and it was like every few months she'd ask me if I was a Taurus. And I'm like, number one, you already have my birthday. You should know that's not true. Number two, yes, I am that unmovable when I want to be.
Yeah.
So it's not like an unawakened nine is just totally flexible all the time.
Yeah.
Because like the truth is, and this is what I would have loved to communicate to myself earlier, is like there's like this top layer of the nine where we just want to agree with the other person, where we want to want whatever the other person wants. And then there's the lower layer of like that fire of what we actually want. And when you're just trying to like live up on that top layer, like I wish I could just tell myself that the other layer exists. Like I can't just choose to want what I want to want. Like I actually have a real want and I need to know what that is or problems will arise.
Yeah. And I love you brought up that option for the type nine, and I've engaged with it with some type nines, is that stubbornness and that passive aggressive where they'll make a plan but then not show up. And it can be very challenging. And so there's where I love that you guys said, yeah, we it can be part our fault too. Um, so I see JJ has his hand up. We've got just a couple more minutes. JJ, what did you want to ask?
Is there any specific body, like learning the body sensations as part of the communication that you're getting from other people? Is there any, I think Anna, you were talking about there was disconnect between you could feel that they were saying one thing, but their body was telling you something else, or you were picking up on it in your body, I think. So is there any skill building that you guys have advice on? Any book like Body Keeps a Score? Okay, great. I'm overworked, I'm chronically hurt, and my back hurts because I'm stressed out. Like, is that what that is, or is it more like communication, like semi-telepathic communication?
Mm.
And if there's a,
Um,
yeah,
I say you have to clean up the space. So you have to clean out the trauma. You have to clean up the stories. And when you start cleaning that up, then all of the other sensories come back. I mean, they're always there, but it's like it's all mixed in. So what you might perceive as what you're reading could just be trauma or something else that you experienced in your past. And working through it, clearing it somatically, like even like the emotional realm and the mental fixations that you might have around the trauma that you have. I mean, it's just about cleaning up the belief system. And then you get in connection with a cleaner sensory experience, right? So it's like in all of us, because we all have a body, right? So like when you start cleaning it up, then you just have a cleaner receiver.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. I hope that the panelists will look at the chat. There's been several comments of appreciation for your wisdom and your vulnerability. You're taking time to share with us. Um, and I just want to do a quick reminder to everyone. I need one more type one if possible. If you know of a type one, I need two more type twos if possible. I don't have any of the male gender. Um, Love to have two more type threes, male if possible, and two more type fours. So we're a little shy on the heart types, and we've got enough ones if that's Yen is going to be one of our one panelists. So we're looking forward to that. And then we just have just 3 minutes, and I'm wondering if I could go back to that last question in just a short sentence. And I know Sophia already put a little bit in on it, but what advice would you give your younger self? Just a short little, what would you share? We're skipping the why. And we'll start with you, Sophia.
Yeah, I feel like I already kind of started a little bit. I think I would just really want to share with her tips for getting in touch with her body. How physically you can do that, the closing your eyes, the looking at sensations, and just how important that was.
Yeah. And I love you guys are body types, and you're reminding us of this because your pathway is the self-forgetting. So, Anna, what would you share?
Can you tell me what the question was again? I'm
What
sorry.
advice would you give your younger self? Just a short sentence. What?
I actually thought about this and I was like, I actually wouldn't give any advice, just like I wouldn't change anything because it's what brought me here.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. John,
I
is
I
y'all
thought about that and sort of like that. I mean, I yeah, do some things, which I did. I mean, I meditated. I learned about that. I explored consciousness my whole life. So that was pretty good. Being curious, looking for things. It's and appreciating things. I mean, I actually did that, so I'm pretty happy. Um,
very cool. All right, Annette.
So I think I would have advised me not to forget the oneness, not to forget the connection with the body, heart, and head, and the realm around. Because if I was there, I think when I was younger or a kid, and then suddenly that got lost. But that would have helped me along the way had I remembered that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. The community is all of you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of this chat. I'm going to stop the recording.